There used to be a sign on the front of 9 The Gallery that said, intimate contact is prohibited against the building. Grand Avenue has changed a lot since then.
This is one of the neighborhood get-togethers we did at the University Park. And people are eating. That's my husband, that's me, that's the girl that worked with me in the neighborhood. Her name's Kathy Cole. We had a big dinner there and had Mexican music, Mexican food, and just all of that. In 1955, I met my husband. We got married, and we moved into a little house behind my sister-in-law on 10th Avenue in Grand. This is a picture of what my house used to look like, and we built on the kitchen and the living room and the patio, and we actually rebuilt the house in the back. So it was quite a lot of work, but it came out good. We first moved here, as I said, there was all senior citizens lived on the opposite side. The man next to us was 95 years old. The one on this side was 92. So they were very sweet and kind and wonderful people. And every Sunday morning, you would hear the ladies playing their pianos in their houses, and they would be out there gardening, cutting their flowers, and they would bake cookies and bring them to my children. So it was really a very nice block to be here. We were poor, but we were happy. There was a bar. There wasn't much of anything on Grand Avenue. Just a gas station, a couple of bars, things like that. But it wasn't rowdy or anything like that until the 70s, the late 70s, and it all changed.
It was just starting to go downhill. And as it started to go downhill, more of the drug element moved in and started taking over, because people were no longer calling the police. They were just kind of throwing up their arms and saying, I give up.
Do I have top 313 on this channel?
Yeah, right in here, this area was just inundated with drug sales, just inundated. And just when you were in here after it started getting to be about dusk, it was just like a land of walking zombies in here. And you can see some of the murals are still showing, because a lot of the people were overdosing and that type of stuff in here. Just a lot of drug hand-to-hand sales. And once you had that much drug sale, you had crime from A to Z in here. I seen a lot of, when we were going after, on 1300 Grand Ave, there was a lot of that. One is pretty much boarded up, and the rooms were actually being squatted. The ownership gave up. They just couldn't keep the property open because we were having so many calls generated, and it was costing them more and more money to try and keep out the element that was undesirable for them. It was in such disrepair, and it was just a really, when you walked in, you were just like, can this really be happening?
It was dark, it was at night, and it looked really trashed, and the foot traffic in the parking lot was scary. You know, it looked like people were sneaking in and out. It was the place to buy drugs, is what I thought, and it was the place I didn't really want to be. I'd never done crack before.
Just to see people start, you know, where the process of what the drugs that they were using, what happens to their lives, and what it does to their physical appearance as well as their internal body as well, from all the other complications that it's causing from using those narcotics.
I was raising 3 kids all by myself, and I felt, I guess, very alone and tired. And so I'd had a friend introduce it to me, and it seemed to be like an answer to everything. I felt like super mom. The first time I tried it, I was hooked. I felt like I could focus. I felt like it was my prescription. I had met a gentleman out walking one day, and he brought up crack cocaine, and I'd never done that before. So we got in my car and went for a ride, and we ended up on Grand Avenue in one of those hotels, and he kept saying, now you just need to be ready to pull out of here as soon as we got into the parking lot. He said, this is really bad. And I thought, well, for someone like this, who really knows bad, to say, this is really bad, it was going to be really bad. So, you know, I kept the car running, and the whole time he was in there, all I could hear myself thinking is, I can't even believe I've done this. I can't even believe I've come here. And he was only gone for like 5 minutes, it seemed like, and then he ran back, jumped in the car, and said, let's get out of here now.
See, none of this was here. Actually, I lived in this one little house right there at one time. A long time ago. I lived across from the park. But if you want to slow down, there used to be a little baby pool here. It was free for toddlers. So it was a little baby pool. I used to take my kids there when they were babies. And then they built, I'll get into the new swimming pool when we get over there. My main focus was this park, because my children grew up here when they were little, and they were on the swim team and different things. And so when I seen it all go bad, I felt really sad about the park, because at the time we didn't have a lot of money, and for my kids to come here, it was wonderful for them. Down my street alone, there was a line of cars coming down the street, lines of them coming, buying drugs. There were prostitutes walking up and down my street, lots of them. I couldn't go outside and mow my lawn without a problem. It was very hard because cars would be driving by, and it's like you had no respect. And you just felt like horrible. It was a terrible thing. Your whole neighborhood was invaded. And of course my husband was very involved, Joe Medina. He was very involved, and he was on they had a committee of guys that toured the neighborhood and watched out for drug houses and things like that. And, you know, we ended up closing 300 drug houses, I believe. That many, the last I knew. It's been a lot more since. This particular house was a big drug house. It's still boarded up. There was a complete raid there, a raid on that house. And just everything was closed off. Like from that 15th Avenue up to Grand, you couldn't get through here. It was surrounded by police. So that drug house was closed down. Those two people were arrested and went to prison.
In the 90s, when we had probably our record number of crack homes that we were selling, you know, crack cocaine, and then the meth was coming on towards the end of that as well. We were just over flooded in that area with those types of sales and those types of people that were using the drugs, which pretty much caused them to be pretty dysfunctional as far as having a job, working, having friends. The only element of friendship they had were people that were using just like them, and they could cut each other's throat for, you know, a rock or, you know, some of the meth to get high on. It was just that bad.
I just thought, I can't even do this anymore. What kind of a mom am I? And I just kept watching them play and thought, this isn't fair, this isn't right. It's like I couldn't find the good I thought I was able to bring even on drugs to being a super mom, being there and doing everything. And so I thought about taking my life and that they'd be better off without me. But then of course I started thinking of all the questions and how could you do that? And what kind of person are you? And just, I was constantly in my head. Being an addict, I think, brought me back to God. You're never really alone. As alone as you think you are, you never are.
And once we started really effectively dealing with them and the actual residents and dealing with the problematic people in the area, we were really able to take back the neighborhoods. And then that's about when other entities started coming in, where it was people that were really interested in establishing the arts that we're seeing now, that and the businesses that deal along those lines. And it just started creating opportunities instead of being just an area of decay. I wanted to work with people that were, like I was saying, that are working for solutions to problems. And that was such a refreshing and revitalizing thing for me.
I prefer to see Grand continue to be revitalized more towards a neighborhood district versus a quote-unquote arts district, because we all see what happens to arts districts around the country. When you start calling things arts districts, number one, it attracts a lot of the wrong type of development. It attracts people who want to be part of that big money-making machine, and it also implies something that is not really something I want to see happen here. Honestly, you have to look at the whole mix. You know, if you have a perfect neighborhood, everybody's going to want to live in it, right? So you look at the things that maybe deter certain types of people from wanting to be in the neighborhood, like developers who just want to make lots of money. And, you know, we don't really need people like that. We need people who have an investment in the neighborhood, who want to do something good here.
So yeah, we opened kind of on a whim. Like, I had just finished school. Dana was being laid off of her job, and we had like met in a bar and talked about how like it'd be cool to open a restaurant because she was great with baking. And like then this space opened up, and we knew Beatrice, the landlord, already. So just like, okay, well, we've got this idea. We know we're all vegetarian. We want vegetarian options. We had talked about the idea of doing a diner, so it was just kind of like, let's hit the ground running and we'll just figure it out as we go. And then So yeah, it just kind of snowballed. I think from talking in the bar to when we opened was about 2 months. We've never had investors or anything like that. We've just done everything DIY. Not that we didn't expect it, but like summer was pretty rough on us. Not just that it gets slow, because everybody expects to get slow in the summer in Phoenix, and it was all just stuff that's out of our control. So we kind of hit ahead where like we just couldn't do anything. Like we just literally didn't have money, and so we called a meeting, and I kind of had the idea of basically like sort of a stubborn old man approach, where I was just like, you don't ask for help, you don't ask for money, like don't ask for directions kind of thing. My friend Nate actually came by just to get coffee, and he was like, you know, it's not exactly like that either though. He's like, basically like, you guys are part of this community, and people move to downtown because they want things like you guys, like little independent shops. They want, you know, creative menus, they want all these different things, and that's what you guys are. And so by you guys, if you guys were to close, it's actually taking something that people actually want. It's part of what makes the community. Otherwise, why would you move to downtown if, you know, these things aren't there? That's why people move downtown. So I think that's kind of the blessing and the curse of Grand in some ways, where it's like, for one, it wasn't always the greatest neighborhood, for sure. Even like, that's like, I don't know, 10, 11 years that I've been hanging out down here, the change has been drastic, but it's hard to convince people of that. In some ways it's really awesome, because what we've seen is people taking the buildings and keeping the character of the buildings alive, and the history of like Lower Grand Avenue alive. So it's kind of cool that it's constantly changing and constantly like readapting, but staying true to like the neighborhood that it is.
I'll never forget standing on the street in front of this space, looking in the window, and being very, very excited. So this space has become much more than a fine art gallery. It's a place of healing. It's a place of growth. It's a place that incorporates every area of the arts, from music to poetry to book signings to theater to fine art. And I love that about the Nine Gallery. My story is that I was an executive for a long time in the advertising and marketing business in New York. And I have a substance abuse issue. And you know, drug addiction and alcoholism is a progressive illness. And so as the progression started to take place in my life, I had 2 years that were very, very dark years for me. I went through a divorce, I left my chosen career, and tried to start getting sober. There were a lot of things that happened in that time, and my quest for getting sober took me all over the country, in and out of detoxes, in and out of rehabs, in and out of jail. And as I was trying to get across country, I landed in Phoenix. My bottom was in an alley off Van Buren. I had been strung out and homeless for about 18 months, maybe 20. And there was a person that picked me up off Grand Avenue and let me sleep on their couch one night. That person happened to be a member of a 12-step program. And when I came to, after sleeping for 3 days, because I hadn't slept for probably 9 days at that point, when I came to, there was some moment of clarity that, and I can't explain it to you, other than I knew that if I walked out that door without going to somewhere safe, that I probably wasn't going to live through it. But you know what? There's a certain humility in that for me. It's like, you know, this is who I am. You know, I can be authentic. Nine has given me the capacity to do that, and to stand with my head up and face life, you know, and I got to see how much people love having me here. That meant so much to me because I love being here. There are some days I sit and go, why am I in Phoenix? I was going east, right? And I was talking to someone today, and they were kind of like, well, it really is like that story of like the phoenix rising out of the ashes. And that's what my life has been. It has been completely transformed. Grand Avenue is a huge part of it. I have great relationships with the other merchants on Grand Avenue. Beatrice Moore, who, God, what an amazing woman. You know, what she's been able to accomplish in all of her years in Phoenix, from moving from the warehouse district to Grand Avenue, to continually supporting the arts, even in the bleakest of times, and always being the cheerleader for Grand Avenue. You know, we owe her so much. The city owes her so much. The arts owe her so much. She's just truly an inspiration to me. And you know, I know Grand's kind of come and gone and come and gone. I hope that this new revitalization of Grand Avenue is the one that sticks.
She's supporting the arts in so many different ways. So she has reasonably priced artist studios. She has her own studio, Cookie Craft. She has all this stuff going on, right? Yeah, but I think she's pretty much a catalyst for a lot of things that happen. She's very aware of what's going on in the city generally. I would say she's instrumental and has been. But I think that she's getting better and better help from the neighborhood, and I think that the neighborhood has really they're starting to step up. So I think that eventually she'll be able to back down a little bit, which would be nice for her. I mean, she's not going to stop doing all this stuff, you know, all this.
I really would like to see the neighborhood just be its best self, but to maintain the diversity, because a lot of times you're hearing these conversations about sustainability. You know, you hear these a lot. It's very popular right now. It's very trendy to talk about sustainability. However, very rarely do I hear people realistically discuss sustainability as far as the people who live in the neighborhood, the economics of people who live in the neighborhood, and how do you maintain that?
Now, a lot of that had to do with that theory that was written back in Chicago about the broken window. When you have a broken window, it all starts from that. You know, nobody takes care of it. Next thing you know, you have more broken windows to where you have more break-ins. And the break-ins, and then you have other crimes originating from that, and then you start losing your neighborhood because of the decay.
We're picking up trash, we are pulling weeds, just sweeping off the sidewalks, and that's pretty much it. We focused around the school. There was a lot of litter around the school, so we got a lot of trash up around the school. But mostly this is a curb appeal cleanup. So we're not going down alleys or anything, we're just focusing on picking up trash off the street. For one, there's a lot of kids in the neighborhood, and that's one of the reasons why that, you know, motivated me to do it, because there's so many kids walking to school and such, and I think it's very important for them to, you know, see that trash on the ground is not okay. You know, it affects everyone. Just because they live in a certain area doesn't mean that they have to live a certain way, you know what I mean? So that's the most thing that I think we can get out of it, is that when we come together as a community, we can accomplish a lot. Most importantly, we all came together and saw people that you probably didn't know lived in the neighborhood, and have kids go to the school. The kids came out together, and you know, I think that that's the biggest thing that we can all take out of it, is just a sense of community.
When I saw Grand Avenue really taking off, I was just like amazed. I wanted to cry. You know, I did cry. I'm crying now. No, I'm kidding.
make room, we became topographical. Our history is walking. Dirt wraps around itself around ankles and holds the streets where you stand. An inch of dust and we hit a wall, you know, like when they straightened our steps to get closer, faster. We became more remote, even faster. You cannot come back from the past, and we haven't. Not yet anyways. Dirt rises and crosses borders between with an ease that peels back layers we haven't seen in years. We can almost see that diagonal line that was our form, and we kneel, and our knees take to the wood of church pews. Dirt rises in deep breaths, parts held into hold. We are seen, we are seen.